All right, so after the Derby Day dramas in the Premier League, we are back again. Yes, we are back. It's Game On. Yes, the show where we talk about everything that makes the Premier League the most exciting and the most followed league in world league football. You know, there was a lot of drama last weekend. I must tell you that. Three different derbies. Results didn't go the way some people thought it would, but hey, some of us were spot on in our prediction of some of the games. Not just the result, but even the scoreline. My name is Joseph Faulkner. I'm in the company of very, very distinguished gentlemen. First of all, Festus Chuku is with me on this one. At least me and him agree that Arsenal. Did Festus even agree that? Festus, did you agree that Arsenal was going to win last weekend?
Earlier, I agreed. I predicted 2-0, if you can check.
Oh, okay. Just check it.
I know. Tottenham they've never had it good at the Emirates for a very long time. So I'm so confident with that we're going to win.
But how's it been? How's it been for you? Last weekend last weekend what you thought it would be?
Last weekend went well as expected. I know we're going to win at least with a minimum of 2 goals, and we won. And I had an exciting time, and all through the week, the Champions League, Europa League, and Arsenal victories within the week. So I'm so happy everything went well. Welcome, guys.
We're going to do a lot of talking. We also have Eddie in the building. Eddie, the only man who thought Arsenal will not beat Tottenham Hotspur. How do you feel now? You know, seeing that you were wrong.
I feel excited. You know, this is
that you were wrong.
This is one of the times where you don't want to be right. And welcome to the show, guys. And listen, I am a very, very happy Arsenal fan today, because that result was exactly what we wanted. And I was looking at some things in that game, and we'll go through that. But it was a great game. I'm feeling good. So welcome to the show.
All right, welcome to the show. Now we're going to do a quick review of what happened last weekend, the Manchester derby, where City absolutely blew Manchester United away. But guys, okay, before we go into what's going to happen this weekend, let's start with a quick review of everything that happened last weekend. First of all, Festus, let me start with you, Manchester City. Can they be stopped? Because these guys looked amazing. They look so fluid. They move the ball very well. They took their chances so well. It looks like the inclusion of Haaland in that team is probably just something they've missed for a long time.
Kali, for now, with the way Man City is playing, I don't see anything that will stop them for now. Maybe later, when the injuries and Haaland, maybe De Bruyne gets injured, and Man City always goes through some periods when they go shy or unexpected draws and stuff. But right now, with Haaland, De Bruyne, everybody playing so well, I don't see anything stopping them. Even both locally and internationally, as it stands now, I think they are unstoppable.
You think they're unstoppable, Eddie? Manchester United were on a roll. They had won 4 games on the bounce, and you'll have expected a bit more fight in them. But then somehow they just totally disappeared. You know, United City, like we all expected them to do, dominated possession. But there have been a lot of arguments about the personnel deployed for that game, and one of the biggest one is Ronaldo. Ronaldo is a big game player. That's one of the arguments. He's a big game player. He's a man who has won everything. He's played at the very top. He understands what it means to play the derby. Casemiro has played some of the biggest games in world football. He's played against Barcelona so many times. He's been in victories against a team like Barcelona. He's won the Champions League multiple times. Why do you start Casemiro, Ronaldo on the bench? Will the inclusion of these guys, would it have done anything? Would it have changed the team in any way against City?
I mean, I think it would be unfair to say that, Ronaldo does not bring anything, even though in his waning years, he's still a major factor. If not for anything, he would distract players on the opposite team. You have to be mindful of where Ronaldo is and what Ronaldo can do. So to say that he wouldn't have had an impact, I don't think is fairly accurate. But at the same time, this is what has been working for Manchester United. So if you look at the last couple of games before then, Ronaldo didn't start any of those games, and United won those games. And so, as a manager, they say you stick to what's working. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So, Ten Hag was within his rights to say, I'm going to go with the same lineup that beat Liverpool, the same lineup that beat Leicester, the same lineup that beat Arsenal, in their perception convincingly as well. So hindsight, obviously is 2020, but I would say that he started with a lineup that he felt he trusted, could do the job. Of course, you can always do that until you meet the opposition, and then you realize that actually, they're a step, above the rest. And I think that's exactly what Man City are. I think Man City right now will make any team, look very, very ordinary. So yes, Casemiro, you would say, maybe they should have come on the game a lot earlier, but I mean, that game was done by halftime, so unless you were planning to make changes in the 25th minute,
a lot of their fans actually left. A lot of United fans actually left the Etihad at halftime.
Yeah. So, I mean, you wouldn't have made changes, 30 minutes into the game, 40 minutes into the game. But by halftime, it was about, damage limitation, really. And, most managers would have said, done what Conte did, right? When the red card happened, it was damage limitation. Take out all my attacking players and put in defenders because I don't want to end up in a 5-goal, score line, right? And maybe that's one thing Ten Hag would have done, so that they don't have such a heavy defeat. But, it's just one of those things. You can't fault him for the lineup he went with.
All right. I agree that you can't fault.
Okay.
Faze.
Yeah. The point I wanted to make is I think Ten Hag should even thank Pep for that scoreline because I think what Pep did was he removed his legs from the gas pedal because it could have been more. Clearly, it could have been more. A lot of people keep saying the scoreline was, they looked at that scoreline and they felt they did well. They did well second half. They didn't do well second half. Pep just decided to relax his players. He has the Champions League coming, and he just said at that point there is no need stressing out those guys, and he did those 4 or 5 changes at once. So it's not like those changes actually did anything. And like for your first question, Kali, you said those Ronaldo and the rest, Casemiro whether they would have made any difference. Clearly, no, they wouldn't have made any difference. Because what Ten Hag was trying to do was basically add youths and people that could run because he knows there will be a whole lot of passes, stretch them. So he needs guys that are a bit active that will be able to run, recover, and do a whole lot of covering. So that's basically what he did. Ronaldo could have been worse because definitely he won't have the energy and stamina to run around and do most of those chasing. So I don't see them making any difference. Man City clearly is in a world of their own now. I don't think anything can match them, especially when he was bold. He was bold. He played the same formation. Eddie and I were just talking. He played the same formation he played against Arsenal and others. He was bold to come
out. A formation that worked.
Well, it worked against Arsenal. But if Arsenal has taken those chances, it could have not worked. So here you have a team.
You know what I always say?
You have a different team.
If my mother was a man, she'll be my father.
Yeah, clearly, I agree with you. But what happened here is that he went bold with a team that is quite different from others he has played, and he got punished for it. So that's what happened to him.
I agree with you that Ronaldo probably doesn't even have the energy to chase a game, especially when you're playing against the City side and you have to run after every ball. He doesn't have that energy anymore. One of the things I think a lot of people need to come to terms with is that Ronaldo is not that spring chicken anymore. He's not young anymore. He's 37 right now and growing older. You can't expect him to give you that same performance he used to give you about 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. A time is going to come, diminishing returns will set in, and I think it's gotten to that point. And it's bad enough he's playing in the Europa League anyway. A player of his status who don't want to stress himself, he wants to play the Champions League. But should the rest of the league be worried? Or is there any team you guys have looked at in the Premier League and you think they have what it takes to spoil the party for Manchester City?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, listen, they've not, Man City are not top of the table right now, and that's because they've dropped points, against teams. They dropped points against Aston Villa, which was a 1-1, scoreline. And they are capable of dropping points, again. Like they say, in boxing, styles make fights, and you need to find, the team that really matches up, with Man City. If you've got a team like, the way Aston Villa played, very content with allowing Man City to have the ball, set up their structure and try and hit them in set pieces and, things like, so we're going to have a lot of teams like that, who are going to be set up, not to allow Man City their free flowing, football. The other teams, the big teams, would want to go in and think, you know what, I can play like you play. You pass, I pass, you shoot, I shoot. And the reality is that I think what teams are realizing is that, Man City have got a phenomenal, striker. I think this is just, Haaland reminds me of what we had when Thierry Henry was in the squad. Literally.
I dare say this is even hotter than when Thierry Henry was around.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument.
It has never happened before.
Yes, there's an argument for that. I mean, the guy is freakish, usually players, when they score a brace. And I always used to say that, you always know the measure of a striker, whether he's content with scoring 2 goals, or he always wants to get the hat trick, in a game. And, Haaland, I just think that he's just a cut above the rest. So I think, Man City are going to come unstuck a few times in the Premiership because teams are going to go and they're going to make sure that they allow them to have the ball and just try and defend. So I expect them to drop points, no question.
Let's use Mourinho's phrase, park the bus.
But we've seen teams park the bus against them and they still find a way to pick them apart.
And that is where Haaland comes in. Before, when teams park the bus against Man City, they
just keep passing around.
Yeah, they keep passing around, especially when you have tough physical defenders. They keep passing around. You lob the ball, they head it out. So what you used to see then was like, like a practice match where you see attackers, defenders, back and forth, they frustrate them. And when they are lucky, use set pieces, they score like against the run of play. Those were the game plan of most physical teams then. But now you have a Haaland that is good in the air, good in shooting, good in 1-2 touch. So they have options. When they meet teams that are packing the balls, okay, they could go through the flanks, lob the ball. Haaland is there also to try and score through the head or whatever. So they have a complete striker and they almost have a complete team that could go any way, depending on what the opponents bring. So this is why they are so difficult to play against, at this point in time. So, but like Eddie said, we will still have those off days. No matter how good a team is, you always have those off days where it won't just gel for them that day, or whatever they throw at you will just not get stuck. Yeah, so those days will come. And if you're lucky, you're one of those teams that is happening that day, you take those 2 points or the 3 points offered to you. But that will not stop them from steamrolling every other team to the Premiership this season. Clearly, I don't see anybody that will stop them because we're saying long run. Remember, it's a marathon there. At the long run, they could miss 1 or 2 matches, yes, or could draw 1 or 2 matches, yes, but I still see them winning this by miles at the end of the day.
All right, so I hear you, and I hear you loud and clear. No matter how much you try to look at this City side and try to find faults, the only problem I see in that City side is somehow they don't know how to not concede goals. By the time they've scored 2-3 goals, I think they take the foot off the pedal. They allow opponents too much room, and then they concede goals. They keep conceding goals, and that's something that even Pep complained about after that game. against Manchester United. But away from the team as a whole, we all agree that Erling Haaland has taken the team to another level. And people like Henry, Shearer, they've started talking about the possibility of him breaking their goal record. Do you think that's a possibility, considering the fact that in just 9 games, he has broken every record in front of him in 9 games. Every record that you had for goal scoring in 9 games, he's become the first player to score back to back to back home hat-tricks in the league. He's the first player to, he's already broken some record here. Do you think in the end, in the long run, it can break Alan Shearer's tally for goals, the number of goals scored in a season?
Without a shadow of a doubt, I think he's tracking right now to score an insane 62 goals a season. I think if he keeps on this form, 8 appearances, he scored 14 goals.
Pace?
At this pace, he's going to score about 60 goals. I'll probably say that it will probably come down to maybe about 50 goals, 40 something goals. I think that's probably where he's going to end up. Injuries, aside, he doesn't look like the kind of player that get injured, quite frequently. So, look, the only thing that can stop, Haaland this season is Haaland himself and maybe Pep Guardiola, pulling him out of games. Maybe as you start to get into the serious business end of Champions League, because as we all know, Champions League is the focus, of Man City. That's why they brought in Haaland, because they just seem not to be able to get over that, hurdle to win the Champions League. The Premier League, you would say they know their way around it. They've done it without a striker. They've done it with a striker. So that the Champions League is where their focus is. So I think when we start getting to anything that has got final in front of it, quarterfinals, semi-finals, of Champions League, you might start to see Pep, rest, Haaland, preparing him, for the Champions League game. So that might be the only thing that might slow him down. But if he plays every single game, I mean, 50 goals is not without reach for him.
It isn't. Well, we continue to watch Haaland and the miracle he's performing. Jokingly, some people put out a protest online, trying to get him out of the Premier League. But hey, the man is here. The man is here to stay. He's here to score goals. He's an absolutely amazing player, And let's move on to the North London derby. That's another derby that was totally one-sided. Now, yeah, normally at the Emirates or at Highbury, Tottenham Hotspur never do well. Arsenal find the victory somehow most times. But this was more than just outscoring Spurs. It was outplaying them, outsmarting them, outthinking them. There were so many gists across England that Conte's experience he has the number of Arteta. He's going to outsmart Arteta, but that wasn't the case. Arsenal dominated the game from beginning to the end. First of all, let me ask you this: Do you think the red card had any influence on the game in any way?
Not at all. The red card came at a time in the game where Arsenal were already in the ascendancy. They had scored the second goal, and the momentum was clearly in Arsenal's favor. And what did the red card come as a result? The battle between Emerson and Martinelli. And I did say in our last conversation,
so much joy. Martinelli had so much joy.
It was an essential, component of that game. Whoever won that game, that battle was going to actually, help their team. And Martinelli clearly, won that battle, and Emerson had to make that challenge. So for me, the red card, it's an excuse. It's easy to grab at the red card and look at it. But if you look at the flow of that game, it wasn't very likely that Spurs were actually going to, come back and draw the game, let alone win the game. The penalty, came, as a result of another, individual error, from one of our players. So, for me, Arsenal, what that game, confirmed to me is something that I've always known along, since and the last couple of seasons that when we have our full complement of our team, playing on the pitch, we are a match for any team, and we're certainly better than a lot of teams on paper, including Spurs. When we start to lose players, a little bit, then you start to see, people talk about the strength in depth, which clearly played its way, in our game against Spurs last season. So clearly, I think if you look at all the different departments, in that match, you will know that Arsenal was clearly, ahead of that game. And I knew that Son was going to start in that game because, Son does well against, Arsenal typically. But we were able to minimize, the impact of Son and Kane.
Almighty Ben White. Ben White doing the job silently. No pomp, no pageantry. Nobody's making so much noise about him. But he's been absolutely outstanding. He's marked out Zaha this season. He's marked out Son, and he's done a good job of it without breaking sweat, without so much noise. But Festus, do we still need to wait for the game against Liverpool, or does the win and the way that win was gotten against Spurs, does it define our season? Does it tell the story of what our season is going to be like?
Unfortunately, the match will not and has not defined our season. Our season will be defined when, just like Eddie said, in terms of when we start going far into those competitions, the FA, the Carling Cup, those competitions have not started. We start going far into the Europa League, the injury starts piling up. It is our squad depth that will define our season. How well we are able to still play the way we are playing, still win convincingly. That is when we could say our season. We can start looking at our season and we know where the direction is going. This match has not defined it because most times, even past seasons, we beat Spurs. We normally beat Spurs in Emirates, so it's not like it's something new, really. We beat Spurs, but at the end of the day, before the end of the season, we fall short. And remember, when this happens, is beginning of next year, between those January, February, March. As a March, our season has already been defined. Unlike last year, when we were there to almost the last 3 matches to the season, when we fell to those guys. If you look, if for me, against Liverpool, yes, we could start saying, okay. Remember, the question was, who has they played? That was the question. Who has they played? But unfortunately, most of these guys asking who has they played, they've played those guys we've played and they've come short. They've lost to those guys we've beaten convincingly, and yet we keep hearing that same question: who have they played?
Who have they played?
Now we've played Spurs, we've played Spurs, we won Spurs convincingly. By the time, if we beat Liverpool, I don't think that question will come up again. At that point in time, nobody will ask those questions because you played 3 of the big 6, you won 2, you lost 1. Clearly, you've played somebody. So at that point, I think those questions we rest completely. But if for the question you asked in terms of our season, I don't think we can start, defining our season at this point in time. It's not yet.
All right. I hear you loud and clear. I'm very excited for Arsenal. I'm very excited for what the possibilities in front of the club this year. Hopefully they're able to win 1 or 2 trophies, or maybe even the Premier League title. Who knows? Because there's been conversation everywhere about if or not Arsenal can, win the title. But I feel like they're going to push whoever wins it to some extent. It's been an interesting conversation today on Game On. If you enjoyed this, remember to leave your comment. Let us know what you think about the show. And let us know what you think we should do better, what you think we should add to the show. Just tell us in the comment section. And remember to click on the notification button so that every time we upload anything, you get to know that we have something out there. And subscribe to our channel, help the ministry as well. Subscribe to our channel and you won't regret it. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Festus. Anything you want to say before we run out?
So I just want to say thank you to all, our fans, that continue to watch the show. Please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm, on YouTube to continue to promote the content. the more likes that you do, the more content, we're going to keep producing, because we have a lot of things that we want to share with you. But, help us share, promote the videos, and tell us the things, what segments you love the most from the show. So, yes, this was a great one, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, it's been an exciting time, guys. Thanks for always being here and encouraging us. We've had fun, and we hope you've had fun also. Come next week, we'll be here also to talk sports and share sports with you. Thank you for a wonderful time. Have a blessed week.
All right, guys, have a blessed weekend. We'll be back again next week with a new result. Hopefully by then, Arsenal will have done the job against Liverpool and we'll be able to celebrate, on Game On. Till then, have yourselves a brilliant weekend. Bye-bye.